Then third, this wonderful verse gives us confidence that we cannot ruin God's good purposes for us. All really means all, so it includes even our backsliding and our sin. Now, sin is always bad, always a terrible thing, and we will always live to regret its painful consequences in our lives. But God is so great that He weaves it into our ultimate good. He can use even our sins and failures to humble us and teach us a right view of ourselves and a greater appreciation of Christ. He makes use of sin to show Christians our weakness and frailty, and He even works through sin to save His people. This does not excuse our sin, but it does cause us to look for how God is working through it, how we might be able to echo Joseph, who told the brothers who had sold him into slavery, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." Genesis chapter 50, verse 20. All for good, but not for all. The truth that God is working for people's good is not a universal one, however. It is easy to overlook the fact that the promise that in all things God works for the good is made only to those who love Him, who have been called. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. These are two ways to describe the same people, Christians, but they are both important. 1. In the Bible, those who love Him ordinarily means people who have made a commitment to live for God. A commitment means to serve God in recognition and appreciation of who He is. Whoever has my commands and obeys them, he is the one who loves me. John chapter 14, verse 21. Love in the Bible is never merely theoretical and intellectual, nor merely sentimental and emotional, nor merely duty and will-based. Love is setting the heart on God, so that in all you do, you determine to please Him. Lloyd Jones comments, "I believe that Paul had a special reason for using the term love, rather than the term believing at this point. One of the best ways whereby we can decide immediately if we love God or not is our reaction to adversity. One of the best ways whereby we can decide immediately if we love God or not is our reaction to adversity. There are many people who, when trials and tribulations arise, they give up. They feel they have been let down." Romans chapter 8, verses 17 through 39, page 186. If you love God for who He is in Himself, you make a commitment and you endure difficulty. But if you are using God for what He gives you, you bail out when suffering comes. 2. Those who have been called according to His purpose. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. This phrase probably does not mean everyone who has ever heard the message or the challenge of the gospel. Anyone who has ever heard the gospel has been called in the general sense of having been invited. But it would not make sense that anyone who has ever heard of Christ would get this promise. As verse 30 shows, a certain number of people are called. That is, to be called means that God has brought us into relationship with Him. Since Paul says that the entirety of life's circumstances, all things, work for the good only of those who love God, there is the strong implication that they do not work for the good of those who do not love Him. The text says that both the good and bad things of our lives have a good effect on us, only because of how God overrules and uses them in our lives. And so it looks as though both the good and bad things that happen to a non-Christian work ill for them. How could that be? Paul very directly says regarding the rebellious that God gave them over in the sinful desires of their hearts. Chapter 1, verse 20.